Hambini fans, and welcome to another episode of Hambini Reams. In today's episode, what have we got? We have these, look, Keo blade pedals, and they have come to you all the way from that land that is famous for cream cheese and surrendering. Yes, France. These are the carbon ceramic type, as you can see there in the text. But there are a few different types out there, including titanium and bog standard. So these ones were made in Nevers in France, and they were the original clipless pedal. I think it was Greg LeMond who wore them first to win the Tour de France when he munched Laurent Fignon at the finish in Paris. Now, at one stage, Look had a virtual monopoly on this, and I had a previous set of Look clipless pedals, and they were called Deltas. The new type is called Keo, and it's apparently lighter. The cleat design is a little bit different, and for those of you who actually give a toss, they have a lower stack height, so that is the difference between the centre of the axle and the point at which you put the cleat and corresponding shoe onto the top. Now, the 3-bolt shoe pattern that these cleats, well, I guess the original Deltas and even the Keos, is almost a standard. Most shoes are designed for those 3 holes, 3-bolt pattern, and I guess the notable exception being speed plate. So physically, what have we got? Well, these are injection molded. I mean, you can see the pin marks here. So there's one there and one there. The cleat locks in at the front, which is right about there. Let me get my pencil. Right about there. And then it hooks round and then it locks at the back. So it's basically like a steel, it's like a ski shoe. I have had a set of Looks before, and in my humble opinion, I would say they were easier to clip in and out of rather than their biggest competitor, which is Shimano SPDSL. Now, this shiny bit of metal is stuck on, and it's I know, because I mean I peeled the one off the other side, but we'll give it a go with this one. Ah, fuck. Ah, fuck. Ah, fuck. Well, that hurt just a little bit. Anyway, we'll not go down there. Right. The axle itself is steel. Now, there is a bit of dubiousness as to what this is made of. Peak Torque, they thought they were made of 14-4 stainless. Now, that's not material that I come across much, if at all, ever. I mean, most of the time it's like a high temperature application, which will be 17-4, which is a 630 stainless steel. I mean, 630 stainless steel is martensitic precipitation hardened, so it is hardened. Bog standard stainless steel, if you didn't know, is actually extremely soft. It's way softer than normal bearing chrome steel, yet people, you know, rave on about it on cycling forums, profess about the longevity of it. It's utter bollocks. You get more drag in them as well because they have a tendency to pit and gall. Someone else said they were made of EN24. But anyway, if you do know what they're made out of, please do let me know in the comment box below. Now, this particular one has a hex drive on the end. Now, I have seen them with basically a spanner fitment on the end, and the standard pedal thread, which is 9/16 of an inch by 20 and a TPI. Now, some people say that is threads per inch. Me being the vulgar person that I am, is teeth per inch, but there we go. Now, that is almost the same as metric M14 by 1.25. I mean, quite a few people put washers in behind here to extend the Q factor, and that's something you could do, and a couple of millimeters is probably not going to make that much difference unless you have a Shimano crank, in which case it will break. Now, the key difference to these pedals is the type of spring. So it's got a carbon leaf spring, and the twats on weight wankers will testify it won't rust. But then again, neither will most stainless steel springs, and they cost about 10 cents. But there we go. There's always a group of people who will spend money for the sake of it, but they, you know, that's up to them. Now this spring is extremely stiff. Now that number on the bottom, I think, gives you an indication of the spring tension. Now to change the spring, you need to take this pin out, and that is simplicity in itself. We just need to take these 2 TX screws out and knock the pin out. So let's give that a go. So that comes out, so you can see that one on that side is slightly out, and at this point it's actually better to get this going. So if we turn it on its side and tap it with a hammer, Reginald, I hope you're watching, just to loosen it, basically to shock it. Right, so that has now pushed that out, so it should be easier to knock the whole thing out. We take that out, probably want to whack it a few more times. This is so we don't round the end off. Now Look do sell a special tool to get it out. I think you might even get one with it, but I didn't, so we're going to have to resort to a screwdriver. So take that out. So now that has really moved. Pop that into the hole. I'll probably use the bigger one actually. And tap some more. Yeah, probably flying out now, look. And then you can just pull that out. So if you don't have the special tool, use a hammer. There you go, and that is it out. So this is a close-up of the spring. It's just a piece of carbon fibre that's been moulded. When I say just, it's probably quite difficult to make that, but nonetheless, that's it. Not really much to say about that. I mean, you can't really increase the preload on this. You've just got whatever you've got. The preload is fixed by this unit here. So that's it. Got no other choices. Now, the axle, I'll move that out of the way. I don't know where I'll put the screw. No, it's fucking here. Right, now the axle is, let me just turn the autofocus off. So the axle is contained within the body, and to get it apart you need a special tool. Reginald Scott was unfortunately unavailable. He was too busy selling out-of-spec bike parts with his Aldi vernier calipers. So we'll have to settle for my set of slip joint pliers or water pump pliers. So in all honesty, you could get a special tool from Look, which would go into these splines or the grooves. But I mean, you're spending money, and you're probably going to do this a handful of times in the lifetime of the pedal. And it's one of these things that invariably you're going to get it scratched. So anyway, we'll go for it. Now these things are sided, so what you do is you set this to a tension, but don't go crazy with it because this is plastic. So if you press too hard, it'll actually deform. So what we want to do is just get it sort of slightly loose, so not gripping too hard, and get it to slip. That's not it slipping. That's because it's plastic. That's one of the things you hate about fucking plastic. So this body is plastic, well, it's injection molded, and then out she comes. So that is what you get once you take the thing apart. I mean, there's not really much more I can say about that. You know, on the outside, yeah, they're my teeth marks from when I did it earlier when I put too much tension on it, but not much. I mean, it's simplicity in itself. You just put that in, tighten it up, and that's how you do it up. Now, on the side nearest the crank, you've got a deep groove ball bearing, and on this side you've got a needle roller bearing. Let me show you one I took apart earlier. So this is the other side, and this is it totally dismantled, and I pushed the bearing off as well. Now On the side nearest the crank, you've got this deep groove ball bearing, which I've actually moved a bit further up, but you can see on that one where it sits. So it normally sits about there. And then you've also got this like double rubber seal, and then yeah, needle roller bearing on there. That bit there is hardened, and then you've also got this bit was I don't know why they put this on here. This sort of like silver ring, which is here, is the one I took off. You can see on the built one there, it sandwiches the bearing in. So it literally goes like that, and then that goes on and pushes like that. So it's a heavy interference fit on there. I had all sorts of fun and games trying to get that off. I mean, the fit, if the bearing fit is really good, you don't really need that. So I don't know why they've put that in. But if you do know why they put it in, or in fact, if you work for Look, and I do supply Look with bottom brackets, including their employees on a private basis, not that we'll get a discount or anything, but there you go. I don't really know why they've done it. I mean, I would have thought you could just put a snap ring in there, which is what Time do. And I think the Wahoo Speedplay ones had that as well. Now, the most obvious thing when I look at this is this bearing. Now this bearing is quite small, and it's also a non-standard size. Now on the Time ATAC, it's like an 8 series or a 9 series in the dimension. This one's more like a 7, so it's considerably smaller, and it's not non-standardized as well. Now I hate having non-standard dimensions. It just makes life difficult. People put those on to prevent third-party spares getting into the market. The reality is people just bin the pedals when a £5 part will be enough to fix them. Now this bearing feels like it has C3 clearance because you can move it back and forth quite a bit. Most ceramic bearings are C3, so that would fit. Now onto the axle, these landings are hardened. So that one's hardened, and that one's also hardened. If you look very carefully, you can see where I've tried to scratch it. The other thing is the bit in between. It looks like it's coated with something that appears to be paint. You can see the marks where I've scraped it there and there just to check. Yeah. Now overall, there's mechanically not a lot wrong with this. This is how I'd build a pedal assembly. You need to look after the axial loads, which that 6000 series bearing does, and the radial loads, which the needle roller bearing does. But the only thing I would do is I'd probably change this bearing to something a bit less weedy. I think it's quite likely you'll trash this way sooner than you would a cup and cone bearing in something like a Shimano Dura-Race SPDSL. So what I'm really trying to say is this arrangement has little wrong with it, but the ever-increasing quest for lightweight and low stack height and all that lot has created a compromise in load carrying capability. So yeah, that's what I think about that. Overall, I mean, as far as the quality of the machining goes, you know, you'd say that was pretty good. There's not really a lot wrong with that. I mean, they've been doing it for ages, and you know, in the grand scheme of things, if you're buying stuff made in France, they're not going to mess around. If you buy stuff from, I don't know, I mean, in the wider professional world, people tend to stop buying stuff from Eastern Europe. That's one place where, you know, a lot of companies won't do trade. But this, not really a lot wrong with that. So how does this axle fit into the body? Well, it just slides in. Now the needle roller bearing is probably the only element I haven't shown you. So this is the one that I haven't taken apart. If you take this little black cover off, which you can do just by popping it off, in there you can see some silver things in there, and that is the needle roller and the tangs that hold that into the plastic body. So they push the bearing in and then tap the ends over. It's almost like peening it over so it bites into the body. You kind of like have to do that on this type of bearing because you need to stop it flying out. So that's how that is done. It's not really taking much in the way of axial load, if any. The only thing you could really say is like friction from the thing going in, but that's about it. There isn't really much else on this. Once you've got the moulding, once you've got the hole sizes, that's it. That's just one part, which is, you know, the bulk of the pedal. This is another part, so you've probably got maybe 8 parts, 9 parts on this entire pedal assembly. So you've got 2 bearings, axle, spacer. So yeah, there's not much more than that to it. Right then, it is that time of the show again. It is time for PowerPoint, and we shall check to see if the pen is working in a minute. Oh, fuck's sake, is this not working? Look, pedal down, pair down, tear down, pair down. By Hambini, aged 5. Let's just check that pen is working. I'm going to do it in really neat handwriting today. Oh, I forgot to put a space between "n" and "is." So yes, it is supposed to be the pen is working. And there's an I and an N there. But anyway, right. Disclaimer. I'm 5. Don't believe anything in this presentation is probably wrong. Now, before we carry on, a word from the sponsor, which isn't quite a sponsor, it's the guy that sent the pedals in.
Hello Hambini fans, and welcome again to another video sponsored by yours truly. I wanted to say congratulations to Hambini, and also to show off some of the bikes that he may like that I have in my stable. Let's see if he actually likes some of these bikes. Let's see now. We have a Fuji Transonic. I wonder if he's ever reviewed one of those. I don't know. But it's a nice bike. And what do we have over here? Another Fuji. I don't think he's reviewed this one because it's a fixed gear bike. Can't really go wrong with this bike, but I'm sure he can find something with it. And then behind it, oh no, is that? I think it's shatter and fail, but I think it's aluminum, so it might not shatter. And then, oh no, it's a Specialized. I don't know if he likes any of the bikes I have. I don't know, but I'm certain the pedals that are gonna be that I have are something he truly likes. Their looks. Oh boy, this may not come out good. We'll see. Enjoy the video.
Right, so in terms of pedal land, you've sort of got the ones on the left, which are these ones, and then they get a bit more leery as we go that way. So there's these ones which are iClick, which I can't remember if it's Time or Mavic or somebody had these, and they're, I would say, a bit more, not right wing, but a bit more technically weird. The closest one to the Look pedal that we tested today, or ripped to pieces today, is this, because it uses a carbon leaf spring. A lot of them have torsional springs. So this Look Keo here, and this Shimano, is that a Dura-Ace? Oh no, it's probably one of the cheaper ones. And then we go further out over this way. Now on the right hand side we've got the Speedplay, which are now owned by, is it Wahoo or SRAM? I can't remember, one of these. I think it's Wahoo. The big difference on the Speedplay is, from a mechanical perspective, is the cleat houses the spring retention. So this, which is the bit attached to the pedal, doesn't really have any of that. Now, some pedal people, or some bike fitting people, notably Bike Fit James, who's like Francis Cade's buddy, they don't really like the Speedplay, or they just think they're overpriced or whatever. Other people swear by it, and that's because you can change the float and the angle of dangle rotation independently. And some people prefer that, but it's by the by. Now, if we were to compare these axles, I'm just looking at the axles and the design of it. This is the Look one at the top. We've got the Time ATAC, which is now SRAM, and the Wahoo Speedplay, you can see the obvious similarity between these two. So, I mean, it almost looks like they've been designed by the same person. The way they've gone about it is slightly different. So the axial bearing, or the 6000 series bearing, which is a deep groove ball bearing, sits in the same place whether you've got the time or SRAM or the look. So it sits basically as close to the threads as you can get. So that's where it sits. Now time use this, which is where a circlip goes in. Look don't have that, so they've got that sort of ring that's got a heavy interference fit in it, but it accomplishes the same thing. It's designed to stop the bearing walking that way. And then over here we've got needle roller bearings. So whether you've got look, time, or even the Shimano one, the only big difference with the Shimano is the bearing on this side, on the expensive ones, so the Dura-Race, tends to be a cup and cone. So it's an angular contact bearing, which has its advantages because you can dial the preload in and out, but has also got its disadvantages because when you trash it, you basically need a new axle, new pedals, you might as well just get new pedals. The Speedplay one is, I mean, it's a completely different animal. The needle roller is here, so it's inboard, and the 6000 series bearing, which is on this side, in fact I think it's there, it sits there maybe, or does it sit there? I don't know, I can't remember which step it sits on, but it sits on one of them two steps. The obvious difference is the Speedplay one has a much smaller axial bearing, but in fairness they do fit a fairly beefy, you know, in terms of thickness bearing, and it's a named brand. So the one that I took apart, which probably a few months ago, was a fag bearing, so that's probably one of the best ones you can get, whereas the one we took apart today on the look were no name. The time ATAC one, I think by default came with NSK. I've refitted NSK, but it's a standard size. This is how I guess the loading setup is different. So you've got the rider's weight here, which is depicted by this huge great orange arrow, and that's a radial load. So you can see on the look pedal, which is over here, and the time and the Shimano, that is hanging over the end. On the Speedplay, it's much further towards the middle. So you've got well, it's a reduced bending moment, let's say. So the axle doesn't quite have to be as beefy to take the load, because it's the lever arm, which is the distance between there and there, is smaller. Whereas here, the lever arm, which is between there, and there, is much bigger, so the L is bigger. Now I've drawn this sort of like a mechanics that you'd get in your exams or whatever, and these red arrows demonstrate restraint. So where the threads are, you've got a restraint radially because it's not moving anywhere, and a restraint axially because again it's fixed somewhere. So you need to counteract those loads, so all the loads need to be balanced. Now strictly speaking, and there are some purists in the comments, by purists I mean wankers, these arrows are it should be opposing this arrow so that you get equilibrium. But and this is just like me being a twat, when you apply the load, the pedal's going down, so technically it's accelerating, but you know, I'm being smug there. Right, I just wanted to draw the picture, I just wanted to draw your attention to this. So this is a set of Look Deltas, and I had these for, it must have been 15, 16 years, and I wish I hadn't got rid of them. So people say stuff gets better, each iteration it gets better and modified and improved and all that. I don't think they got better at certain things. So the big one is the adjustability on these. You can use that little Allen key, or what is it? I think it's a grub screw actually. Oh yeah, it's a grub screw. You'll see why in the next one. To increase the tension. And you can use this dial at the back to change your float from 0, I think it was, to 7 degrees. I mean, that was just like a godsend. And even after all those years, I mean, look at the pedals. Okay, they've had wear on them, and the bits around here, the paint's gone off. Even the paint itself was of extremely high quality because it's scratched, but it's hardly any damage on there. But functionally, the pedals work fine. I only got them because I ended up getting a set of Look Keos, but we'll come on to that in a minute. So that's that. They were admittedly heavier than the ones that replaced them, so the Look Keos replaced them. But I mean, look at the bearing sizes. It was just built to not break, and the amount of times I'd crashed my bike, come off it, and okay, the pedals had scrapes and things, but these days, you snap them, but back then you didn't. But that's enough of me reminiscing about the good old times. What we got here? Yeah, you see where the scraping damage was here and here, but okay, the paint's come off, but look at it behind it. It's cast aluminium, but it was just robust. So yeah, it even had gauche links left. And these were the torsional springs, and when I went to buy these, that was before the days of mail order, so I tried a load of these pedals in the shop, and I liked these ones because of that adjustability, and they were on the firm side of spring tension. So yeah, okay, they don't make the deltas anymore, and they do have a high stack height, but did I really give two hoots? Not really. I'd rather just have the durability, and the weight is 100 grams really a big difference? I don't think so. And these are the ones that replaced them. And you see, this is basically a much cheaper version of the ones we teared down. So this still has the spring tension there, and instead of having the carbon plate to adjust it, you just turn on that, and that preloads a spring more or less. I mean, the big difference here is it's much more slimmed down, but at the same time, I mean, the Delta cleats used to last ages. The Look cleat, I don't think lasts anywhere near as long as the Shimano cleat, but there you go. And I can't remember if it was this one or the replacement set. The bearing on this side lunched itself. The pedal started to click. I took it back to the shop and they just replaced it straight away, no questions asked, so I couldn't really fault them for it. But in the intervening period, I did buy a set of Shimano SPDSLs, and I haven't really gone back to them, gone back to the Look pedals. The only comment I would make is that I think the Look pedal is much easier to clip in and out of than the Shimano one. So overall, I mean, this is a big one. I'm a firm believer in, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think the Delta was... okay, it was robust and had it all, but if you look at the Keo and the number of people that are on it, there's thousands on there, and you get very, very few failures. So I would say it was a proven design. And the only real weakness is it's a fairly small, puny, deep groove ball bearing that's there, and it's a non-standard size. Now, if you compare this, if you compare the top end of this versus the top end Shimano, which are basically the two equivalents these days because time's not got a look in. The Dura-Ace has an angular contact bearing, so it's a cup and cone bearing at the top end. I think the RSLs and all that lot don't have that feature, but you can adjust the preload in and out. Whereas you don't have that feature on the Look, but if you trash a Dura-Ace, you basically you need a new axle and a new pedal body because the cup and the cone are integrated parts into there. So it's not easy You know, so you're gaining on one side but losing on the other. And then finally, this one's a ceramic set. Ceramic bearings at 100 RPM is just a waste of time. So looks, I wouldn't say look at having your pants down, but they've put it out because there's a market for people when they see ceramic. You might as well just write, I'm a twat on my forehead, and then, yeah, just do that. Because it's just a waste of time. At 100 RPM, you're just going to absolutely rinse yourself because the ceramic balls, I mean, it's not a fully ceramic bearing either. It's just the balls in there ceramic. They're really, really hard and they're likely to indent into the races. So there we go. Right, that is the end of this presentation. If you did enjoy it, remember to smash that like button. If you didn't, go screw yourself. And as always, keep banging your hairdresser.